Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli, back with another review video, and continuing on, me reviewing some of my all-time favorite movies. So, as I teased in the last review video, and if you guys figured it out, because, you know, Jon Favreau, he, wrote and directed and starred in a movie where he plays a really good master at cooking. If you guys knew what I was talking about, well, and thus, yes, you read the title, and you know what it is that I'm reviewing, and it's in my top list of favorite movies, my all-time favorite movies. I think it's probably one of my favorite movies that Jon Favreau has written and directed. And again, because he is literally the main star of this movie. And, you know, it's amazing and impressive when actors not only... directors, the actors who are sometimes directors and writers, sometimes they would write, direct, and be the main star of the movie that they're in. Like, I can think of, say, John Krasinski, because he has written and directed the Quiet Place movies, and he has sometimes starred in them. You know what I mean? So that's a good example right there. So, yes, that's right, guys. I am reviewing another one of my all-time favorite films, and seeing as how this movie is celebrating its anniversary, that being from 2014, Chef. Yes, the movie Chef, written, directed, and starring the one and only Jon Favreau. And this was before, after doing this movie, he would go on to do much more bigger projects. Like, you know, literally after this, he would go on to direct the live-action Jungle Book film at Disney, which, you know, say what you will, but I really enjoyed the live-action Jungle Book film. And right after doing that, well, he would go on to direct another live-action remake of something Disney, that being The Lion King. And during that same time, when the live-action Lion King film came out, well, he would bring us one of the top best live-action Star Wars shows, The Mandalorian. Yeah. And, you know, just him having a huge part, now having a huge part in the Star Wars franchise, as well as, you know, being a part of the Marvel franchise. Because, you know, before Chef, he previously brought us the first two Iron Man films, and in the MCU, playing the role of Happy Hogan. Yeah. So, okay, with the movie Chef, I really enjoy this movie, and as I just established, it's one of my all-time favorite movies that Jon Favreau has worked on. And again, the fact that he not only wrote and directed this movie, but he is literally the main star. Yeah. Like, I could go on doing other comparisons and examples on other actors who have written and directed movies that they were in, like, oh, the late Leonard Nimoy, you know, in Star Trek 3 and 4. But anyways, so yeah. The first time I watched Chef, well, I mean, I knew about this movie before seeing it, / watching it. I didn't know what to expect. At first, I was thinking it might be one of those movies where something bad is gonna happen, like probably, you know, something between, you know, the divorced parents and, you know, with their child and such. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a bit difficult for me to put it at words, but, you know, if you know what I'm trying to explain. But no, because there's really nothing in this movie that I thought was going to happen at first. Because, you know, what goes on in the movie with the story and with the characters, just everything, just fantastic. I'm telling you. Like, and I'm going to continue saying this. Chef, I really enjoy, and it's fantastic. yeah. And, you know, because it's got a lot of big familiar faces in this movie. If you've seen who's in this movie, aside from Jon Favreau, of course I'm going to name them. But, as always, and now, come up to it, read the description / the story. After a controlling owner pushes him too far, Chef Carl Casper quits his position at a prestigious Los Angeles restaurant. As he tries to figure out what his next step should be, he finds himself in Miami. Carl joins forces with his ex-wife, best friend, and son to launch a food truck business, and to venture, the venture provides a chance to reignite his passion for cooking, as well as his zest for life and love. So the movie itself, we of course have our main character, Chef Carl Casper, being played by the one and only Jon Favreau, also the writer and director, who works, again, as I read, at a prestigious Los Angeles restaurant. I don't think we really know about the name of that restaurant that he worked at. Yeah, but we know who the owner is, and who I will mention shortly. What's happening at the beginning of this movie is that a very important food critic is going to be showing up, and, well, because Carl is a divorced father, but it's nice to see in this movie that he and his ex-wife, Inez, being played by Sofia Vergara, they get along, and they're really good friends. And I love when, you know, because how she still cares and loves her ex-husband, especially when, you know, at a certain point, things do not look really good for Casper with, you know, what happens at the restaurant, and something that he really wants to do at the restaurant for this food critic, but he's turned down by his boss. Yeah, because, you know, she knows how much of a good, you know, cook Carl is, and, you know, it's really a shame because, you know, with the talent that Carl has, and especially because, like, there are moments where, you know, we see him just cooking a lot of dishes, like, at his apartment, and, oh, it looks so good, you know, you just want to reach for it out of the TV screen, you know what I'm saying? And they have a son, named Percy, played by MJ Anthony. Yeah, got the first name right. And by the way, fun fact, just, you know, want to mention this, that MJ would work with Jon Favreau again, voicing one of the wolf pups in the live-action Jungle Book. Yeah. So, again, I thought I'd mention that. And you know what, a lot of times, Jon Favreau would work with, you know, some actors numerous times, including one actress who I will mention, of course, when I get to her, because she has worked with Jon Favreau numerous times. With Carl picking up his son, and his son tagging along with him to pick up ingredients, food, groceries, you know, to prepare for, you know, the food critic coming to the restaurant, because, you know, Carl wants to cook something very good for, you know, for the critic, and, you know, make a change to on the menu for, you know, one night. But again, his boss, Riva, I think it's Riva. Yeah, Riva. The owner of the restaurant that Carl Casper works at and cooks, being played by the one and only Dustin Hoffman. And yeah, it really shows, like, you know, I think the guy who runs and owns the restaurant, you know, I mean, yeah, I mean, I won't deny it. Yeah, he can, pardon my French, but it's true. He can be kind of a dick at times, especially to Casper. But, you know, I mean, I can tell he's not really a bad man. And, you know, he does care for Casper. And he knows, no doubt about it, that he knows that Casper is a master at cooking. But, you know, for him, it's just restaurant business, I guess you could say. Just stick with what's on the menu, and, you know, as they explain, both Riva and Casper, you know, cooking the same, you know, foods for 5 years, because Casper, this movie establishes that Casper had been working at that restaurant for 5 years, and he had been cooking the same foods during those 5 years. And again, because Casper, he wants to make a change to the menu for this important critic, but again, his boss is not having any of it. Also, other members, like chefs in the restaurant, I should say, and, you know, who are Carl's friends. There's Martin, and that being his best friend, being played by the one and only John Leguizamo. Yeah, good old John Leguizamo, a.k.a. the voice of Sid the Sloth. It's true, so. And there's also Tony, and Tony is kind of I guess he's a little bit of a handful, you know, especially because, like, I don't know, because he sometimes gets drunk, I guess, you know. Tony being played by Bobby Cannavale, if I'm saying his last name right. I've seen him in a lot of stuff, and most notably, he had been in the first 2 Ant-Man films, yeah, playing Cassie's stepdad. There's also Molly, who, like, is at the front desk, you know, like when you enter into the restaurant, you know, that's her position at the restaurant. Molly being played by Scarlett Johansson. And I think it is hinted that Molly and Carl, they're dating, I suppose. I think it does show, and it is mentioned, especially like a couple of moments they have, and they're kind of flirting and so on. And, you know, even when back at Carl's apartment, he cooks something for Molly, so, and her watching Carl cook and such. By the way, because speaking of Carl cooking, I'm pretty sure, I hope he's listed on here. You know, as always, I have, you know, IMDb pulled up. Because there was a stunt cook, I think, yeah. There was a stunt cook, because those close-up shots where, you know, we see Carl cooking the foods and such. Yeah, because most of the time, you know, the close-up shots of his hands and with the tattoos, that was not Jon Favreau. It was somebody else, I'm pretty sure, yeah. But, you know, I mean, because an actual chef who was, like, Jon Favreau's hand double, like, you know, it was important to include those tattoos on Jon Favreau, you know, pay attention to detail, you know. So, and what happens next, you know, because again, Carl, he wanted to cook a special menu for this important critic. I don't think he did accomplish that. And after the food critic came into the restaurant, what happened next is, well, because they were celebrating at a bar, and Jon Favreau's character, Carl, I should say, was reading the review from the food critic. And I believe, yeah, because, you know, the important and respected food critic in Los Angeles, Ramsey Michael, being played by Oliver Platt. Yeah, he's done a lot of acting. He's been in a lot of stuff, I know that. He basically gave Carl Casper a hard time in his review, just basically hurting Casper's feelings, you know. And it's nice that some of the characters, you know, even like, say, you know, from Molly and Inez, they're, you know, they talk with Carl and, you know, try to make him feel better and such, you know. Especially because between Carl and his son Percy, because throughout most of the film, because, you know, they do get together, but, you know, nothing really special is going on when they get together and such. Like, they're doing a lot of fun stuff, but, you know, it's like they're not really hanging out. And even, like, there's one moment where, you know, while Percy stays at his father's apartment, well, because one day Carl was back at the restaurant. He was there all night fixing a lot of foods of his own, and Martin came in, and he could see that, yeah, because Carl had been doing so much in the kitchen, and, you know, he was telling him to just go home, and he even at one point slipped out saying F Twitter. So, and, oh my gosh, like, the whole thing with Casper using Twitter, until I get to that, oh my god, like, yeah, and so Martin eats one of the foods that Carl had cooked, and then Tony comes in, he tries it too. They really, as they say, you know, oh, that's some good shit. That's how, yeah, that's what they say, so, and, okay, so, and at, Carl's apartment, while Percy is there, staying there for the weekend, like, Carl asks Percy about Twitter and such, and it's nice to see because Percy is about 10 in this movie, like, you know, how smart he is. Like, any kids like that, you know, they can be smart. So, he's, like, helping his dad and guiding him, you know, how Twitter is used and such, and, his son sets him up an account, Carl Casper, but that's already been taken, and then going for Chef Carl Casper, and, well, that name has not been used, and, yeah. And besides, yeah, he is a chef, so that's fitting for something like that on Twitter, you know. And he can see on the Food Critic's Twitter page, like, you know, what, you know, because of what's been said about him, Carl, that is. Like, at first, Carl has no idea how Twitter is used. It's like, Carl's kind of being the child here. Like, I don't know, some people at a young age, you know, they really don't know how to do some certain things on, like, say, Twitter, Facebook, and such, and, you know, you post some certain things out publicly, you know? Yeah, so what happened was, he replied to a tweet to Ramsey, the food critic. Because, you know, Ramsey wrote something nasty about him, and Carl replied back. He thought he was replying to him like text messaging, but no, because again, he has no idea at first how Twitter works. Like, that is public, and his reply is public, and anybody can see it. And what happens is, his reply explodes, and Percy informing his dad about this, and Ramsey did reply back, and it had to do something with the chocolate lava cake, yeah, because the chocolate lava cake being heavily mentioned, especially, like, what was on the menu at the restaurant. And then back at the restaurant, well, because Carl, you know, wrote another reply to the critic, telling him to come back to the restaurant because he'll cook something for him and such. Martin and Tony do, like, they're telling him not to do it, but nope, he does it. Oh, Carl. Again, just, like, if you watch the movie and with that, you're just like, oh my god, Carl, because him using Twitter, like, yeah. And then his boss, Riva, steps in. Well, he is pissed at Carl, especially because after what he tweeted. And Carl, like, he puts his foot down. He wants to change the menu. He wants to cook some good food for the critic, but his boss is not having it whatsoever. And, you know, I mean, he said, like, a couple of things that his boss says. It is true. I mean, because, you know, for him, he pays for a lot of things in the restaurant, as he explains. I pay for the napkins. I pay for the glasses. I pay for Molly's salary. I pay for your entire staff's salary. Yeah, it's true and such. But still, like, you know, if only his boss had not pushed him. Like, how dare you push a visionary and an artist like Carl Casper, you know? It's like how, you know, sometimes, like, visionary directors, like say, Tim Burton, like, they had sometimes gotten pushed. You know what I mean? So, artists and those who are very talented, you can't push them. Let them do their thing, for once. And yeah, that's what Carl Casper's boss should have done. Just do his thing for once, just for one night for the food critic, and everything would have been all right. But again, no, Riva flat out refuses, and it's not that he was threatening to fire Casper, you know, because he told Casper that you either cook what's on the menu or, you know, you either stay or leave, yeah. Even, like, placing Tony being Carl's replacement. And what happens is, yeah, Carl has had enough, and he resigns/quits. Even, you know, he said to Tony to, you know, to come along with him, but Tony, you know, he doesn't want to go, but Martin does. Martin wants to tag along with Casper, but Casper, you know, tells him to stay. Just stay at the restaurant. And, you know, with the character of Martin, because it's nice to see, because how much of a, you know, good friend he is to Casper, and how, you know, he wants to stick by his best friend's side. He's got his best friend's back, so, you know. So what happens next after Carl quits working at the restaurant? Well, because he's back at his apartment, and like I mentioned, there are some, a couple of moments, like montages, you know, where he's cooking a lot of dishes. And yeah, he's cooking a lot of dishes when we see Ramsay come back to the restaurant, and he is wondering where Chef Carl Casper is, if he's present at the restaurant. And I think, yeah, by this point, because he's being served the same dishes on the menu, he does start to realize that, well, because the guy who runs the restaurant, that being, of course, Dustin Hoffman's character, well, yeah, he is an asshole. And, you know, he realizes about, you know, Chef Carl Casper and such. And, you know, what happens at the end of the movie when we see that food critic again, until I get to that. Because, you know, I think, yeah, he wanted to speak and talk with, you know, Carl and such. And Molly at one point is on the phone with Carl. Well, because Carl did see a tweet that Ramsay had posted while at the restaurant, where, once again, he says something about Carl Casper, and Carl Casper arrives at the restaurant, and what happens next, an infamous moment, I should say, where he confronts and lets it out on Ramsay, you know, just telling him how hurtful this is to him, and, you know, about the chocolate lava cake, and, you know, it's molten, it's effing molten, you asshole. It's, oh my gosh, like, the performance that Jon Favreau gives in that, it's really good, and I think, I don't know, I think it is kind of funny, especially with his shouting, you know. And basically, well, because of his outburst, you know, there's a lot of people that are taking flash pictures and are videotaping this on their phones. And we then see Casper on the phone with Jen, an important woman that Inez recommended Casper to call and such to get some help and such. And, you know, because, you know, and, you know, Inez, I know that, I think, yeah, I can tell that Inez knows this, and so does Molly, because Molly, a little bit later, tells and confronts Casper that where he's at right now, he is, you know, he's not happy. He needs to get out of there and, you know, start something fresh and new and such, and now that he no longer works at the restaurant, and he doesn't really have any money. So, you know, he's on the phone with Jen, who wants to help Carl Casper and even recommends that, you know, he should be a part of Hell's Kitchen. And Jen, being played by Amy Sedaris, And as I mentioned earlier, one actress who has worked with Jon Favreau numerous of times, that's her, Amy Sedaris. Like, she had been in Elf, and most notably, she has been in The Mandalorian, you know, playing What's-Her-Face on Tatooine. Yeah, her. So, yeah, so again, she's worked with Jon Favreau numerous times. I think she... Yeah, because I think, yeah, she had a voice role in the live-action Lion King film, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Even Jen was telling Casper that, well, his Twitter page was blowing up, and it's got so many followers, and Carl said that he was going to cancel that account, but I don't think that's a smart move to do that, because even Jen tells him to just don't cancel it, because look how many followers that he has grown on his Twitter page. I mean, you know, he doesn't really care for that, and besides, he doesn't really want, like, big-time money or anything like that. He just wants a job, because, you know, he's a cook, and, you know, he wants to make food, that's all. He just wants a job, that's all. Then Inez calls Casper, and well, because at one point, Casper was planning to take his son to New Orleans, but that wasn't going to happen anytime soon, especially where he's at right now, the position he's at right now. Even Percy understands that. And like I said, Casper, you know, with Molly, and Molly just, you know, telling him that, you know, he's not happy. He needs to, you know, get out of where he's at and, you know, start something fresh and new. Like, the biggest thing that, for Inez, like, I think, and for everybody else, like, they have recommended to Casper that he should get a food truck. And what happens next is that, well, because when he goes to see his son, Inez talks to Casper about having him join her and their son to Miami. And Casper, because, you know, he tells her that, you know, he doesn't want any charity or anything like that. He doesn't want any money from her. But, you know, she really insists, and she insists that, you know, he needs to really be with his son, and, you know, for him, he can be the nanny to their son at Miami. And another thing is, well, because one thing about Miami, well, that's where they first met. And in Miami, that's where Casper got his start being a master chef. Yeah. And, well, Miami is also where their son was born and raised. And also, in Miami, because they pay a visit to Inez's father, Carl's ex-father-in-law, and Percy's grandfather, who is a performer. And yeah, so they're with him, and even like at one point, because when they're at a restaurant, there's one dish that Carl really wants his son to eat, but, you know, he's zoinked out, he's, you know, asleep, and Inez insists that, you know, and tells Carl that he should fix it back at home, but, you know, he really wants him to try it in Miami, but she tells him that how he cooks it is much better, and that's very nice and sweet for her to say. And another reason for her bringing Carl to Miami, well, is because of the food truck. You know, she really is insisting on him getting a food truck. Just, you know, to stop fooling around. Because that's basically what it is. Just, you know, stop fooling around, Carl, and just do it. Do it now. Like, get a food truck, for crying out loud. And that's what he does. He meets with, Inez. Gotta slow down. He meets with Inez's ex-husband, because, yeah, I think, yeah, the movie establishes that Inez was married to this guy before marrying Carl, yeah, and her ex-husband being Marvin, like a big-time artist, I want to say? I think so, yeah. Well, and, you know, because Marvin has an unused food truck that Carl can use, and Marvin being played by the one and only Robert Downey Jr. So yeah, that's two Marvel cast members being in a movie written and directed by Jon Favreau that's not Marvel, and in this case, Iron Man. So yeah, Robert Downey Jr. and Scarlett Johansson. Yeah. Well, and coincidentally, Bobby Cannavale, because him being in Chef, he would be in this movie a year before, being a part of the MCU franchise in the Ant-Man films, as I mentioned. So it kind of gets a bit awkward, like a little bit, yeah, like with the conversation that Marvin and Casper have, and Marvin slips out that, well, after Casper and Inez divorced, Inez and Marvin got together at one point. And we find out a little bit later because Casper confronts Inez about this. And I don't know, like, the character of Marvin, I mean, he seems like a nice guy, and you know what, he feels, I think, yeah, he feels sorry for what Casper is going through, because obviously Marvin is well aware of what video was published of Casper because of his outburst and such, and assuring him and telling him that, he's not a loser or anything like that, you know what I mean? So yeah, even though, because, he's kind of taunting Casper, like, if you watch the movie, you would definitely see and understand. So, but again, I mean, Marvin, I don't think he's that bad and such, just it's kind of mutual, between him and Casper and so on, but, again, he's still kind enough to, give Casper a food truck, and it used to be a taco truck. Well, now Casper can turn it into, a food truck. And that's what happens. Inez and Percy, they arrive, and Percy checking out the inside of the food truck, while Casper, he confronts Inez about, what happened when, after he and Inez got divorced. Inez at one point hung out with Marvin. So, and, she explains that she was lonely and sad and so on. And both Inez and Marvin did drink at one point. And then a little bit later, they realized that both her and Marvin, they're just friends. So, yeah. So Percy remains with his dad, helping him clean up and, touch up the food truck. And it kind of gets a little bit out of hand, like, Percy does a lot of work / cleaning to the food truck, and there's even one piece of the food truck that, he refuses to clean because how disgusting it is, because he pointed out a little bit early that he smelled something that, like, it smelled like something was dead, and that's what it was, like, something gross in there, like, and, Casper kind of being a bit too harsh on his son, like, pick it out and clean it and such, and yeah, like, I think he went over the top, and he was acting too much like a head chef or boss, you know what I mean? And he did apologize to his son, of course, and yeah, he just put a lot of pressure on his son, because even though, hey, Percy did a really good job, cleaning and washing the inside of the food truck. I mean, the thing is, like, that was an easy thing for Percy, while Casper, he was taking care of the mechanical stuff to the truck. Yeah, so, and they pick up some tools and, cooking equipment for the truck, and Casper gives Percy his first ever knife, because he deserves it. And then, a little bit later, Martin shows up, because a little bit early on, because there was a call between Casper and Martin got promoted as a soup kitchen chef, like, am I saying that right? if you know what I'm saying, yeah. But pretty much he quit that position and just left the restaurant entirely to be with his best friend and to help work on the food truck. So from there on, because, they serve a couple of foods on the food truck, and then, well, because they're planning to travel kind of around the world, almost, and going to a lot of places. And Percy, of course, tags along, because, he even texted his mom, if it was okay and such to tag along, and yeah, of course, she immediately texted back saying it's okay, because, yeah, that's the thing, when, Percy's wondering if he can tag along with his dad and such, like, Casper, wonders, like, what Inez would say, and, Percy would be quick enough to, ask and text his mom, and, him sometimes saying, I already texted mom, she said it's okay, so, yeah. So again, Percy joining along with, his dad and Martin, and, it's what happens next, is really good, because they make pretty good progress with the food truck, because a lot of people, coming up to the food truck, and the first time that they were serving, people, well, because a Miami cop showed up and asking them if they have a permit. And, of course, they do, but they just have to pull up some more. And the Miami cop, it's him. He was played by Russell Peters. He recognizes Casper because, Casper on the internet, with that outburst, the chocolate lava cake guy. And what the Miami cop does next, he asks Casper if he could take a selfie and a few pictures with him. Like, he's pushing it, and he's gonna get the crowd pissed off, like, because they want to eat, and, just, like, dude, let them pull up. Like, you told them to pull up, and you're now asking to take a couple of pictures. Like, even one where he asks if they could do a Lady and the Tramp pose with a sandwich. Dude, get a grip. And during their adventure, serving people food on the food truck, Percy, at times, is making vines and posting where they're at on Twitter and such. And, because at one point, Casper asks both of them, Percy and Martin, who wants to go to Disney World? Martin's down for it, but Percy, he really wants to go to New Orleans. And, yeah, so they, of course, head to New Orleans. For me personally, I would never turn down going to Disney World, but, I would like to visit New Orleans as well. Who wouldn't? New Orleans is a fantastic place. Especially because, well, look at what, Disneyland, how they did New Orleans Square, giving you that vibe and feel of New Orleans. Really cool. And, it makes you want to really visit the actual location. And the same goes for, at the Disney parks, like, especially at Epcot. It feels like you're there, but you really want to visit those places like London, China, etc. You know what I mean? So yeah. So they arrive at New Orleans, and Percy and Casper, they have a really good father and son time in New Orleans, and they're having a really good time. And when they showed up back at the food truck after they did some shopping and they grabbed some food served at New Orleans, basically, they have a huge crowd waiting to be served, and it's thanks to Percy because he tweeted that, and of course, and as Carl says to his son that he is the reason that there's a lot of people waiting to be served with what's being served on the food truck. Yeah. God, and other funny moments that happen while they're on a road trip, with the food truck, because at one point and one evening, Carl and Martin, they offer Percy beer. He gives it a sip. I think he, takes almost, a big chug of it, and, of course, he didn't like it. So, and, Carl telling him, now not to, to be offered to take a drink by your friends and such, yeah, it's true. So, also, other moments, they try out, Texas barbecue, and when there's and one moment when they're serving on the food truck, Percy gets a phone call from his mother, Inez, just checking up on her son, and she of course talks with Casper, and it was pretty funny, Martin just, taunting Casper, and even Inez just almost heard what Percy said, I had beer. What did he say? And, she can kind of barely hear Casper, and especially because of the crowd, and, I feel like Inez saying, tell Percy I love him. And even Percy says, I got a knife. And, Casper then quickly saying, he says I love you. And Inez, what? I love you, says Casper. I love you too. I think, because that was directed at Casper, because right after she said that, then Percy and Martin, they have this look like, well, they apparently must have heard it too on the phone. And Inez then saying, tell him I love him too. Yeah. So, yeah, that moment right there. Yeah, so if you think about it. And everything is still going great while, they are still serving people on the food truck. And one night, another moment between Casper and his son Percy, they take a selfie, and Percy mentions that he had finished that 6-second Vine that he was working on all during the road trip, but I don't know, because the video that Casper receives from his son, it's more than 5 seconds, or maybe I must have misunderstood it. I don't know, but I do remember clearly it was mentioned about, him doing a 5/6 second Vine video, so, and an emotional moment where Casper tells his son that, well, the adventure/journey on the food truck is coming to an end, and everything will go back to the way it was, and with them spending time during the weekends and such. And Percy, he doesn't want it to go back that way, and and Casper should know that it doesn't have to be that way, because what happens next, when they all return home, and Casper, he drops off his son back at his mom's house, and he comes back to his apartment, and he did receive that video from his son, and yeah, it's a montage from beginning to end, being on the food truck, that fantastic adventure/journey that, Percy, his dad, and alongside Martin, they had, and Casper, being touched by the video, and he wakes up and realizes that, what, he can spend more time with Casper and such, and by having, his son help, cook and work on the food truck and such, and he calls up his son, telling him about that, and Percy, letting mom know, and what happens next? Well, because they're serving on the food truck once again, all three of them, along with Inez, because Inez joins in, being the waitress, taking people's orders. And then at one point, that food critic, Ramsey, showed up, and he wanted to speak with Casper once again, and this time he did, and telling him about, what was going on Twitter, and, he told Casper that, he thought that both of them were just having fun, and, this was theater and such, and, Ramsey had no idea that, what Casper first wrote to him on Twitter, in reply. He had no idea that Casper was sending that privately or anything like that, and Ramsey assures him that what Casper was doing as of now, fixing his own food on the food truck, as he says, this shit is good. Yeah, this time he thinks it's good, and even Ramsey understood, because what was happening at the restaurant where Carl used to work at, and, Carl, of course, made it clear that he had no control over the menu when, he for once should have if his boss had not turned him down and so on. But as of now, because where Carl was at, you know, having his own food truck, serving his own food, yeah, it's become much better and what Ramsay thinks of his own cooking. And Ramsay is offering Casper, you know, to be a partner because he wants to help Casper. And Ramsay sold his website, you know, for a lot of money, and he bid on a building where Carl can take it and he can have it be his own restaurant. And that's what happens because, well, yeah, because he and that food critic, Ramsay, they become partners. And 6 months later, Chef Carl Casper now has his own restaurant. And what a great happy ending, especially, yeah, because it is mentioned, and we can see that both Casper and Inez, they got remarried, and their wedding is happening. And I have the feeling, and yeah, I think, yeah, it is true that what happened at the end of the movie, it's thanks to the food truck. And also, I would also consider it's also thanks to Percy. Without Percy and the food truck, well, nobody would not be where they're at the end of the movie. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. And a great way to end the film for sure, because, yeah, Inez's dad is there performing and such, and, yeah, a great way to end the film. And during the credits, like, there's a bit of clips of, you know, the wedding happening and, you know, Inez's dad performing. And a little bit later in the credits, because we see a little bit of a behind the scenes with, like, hand double for Jon Favreau, like, you know, cooking some food and such. Yeah, that was really nice to see. Yeah, just, you know, how the movie ends, and like I said, just a perfect way to end the film. Like, you know, what more do I have to say? Chef is a great movie. You know, and for this being written, directed, and starring the one and only Jon Favreau. I mean, this is Jon Favreau we're talking about. He never disappoints. And I would highly recommend Chef. Really, I would, because it's such a great movie with the story, the characters, the funny/emotional moments, just everything about this movie. And well, not to mention the music. The music was good in this too. Just, yeah, everything about Chef was really good. And for it being one of my all-time favorite movies, in my top list, you know, of my all-time favorite movies. And I'm giving Chef 10 out of 10 stars. Yes, 10 out of 10 stars for Chef. And what about you guys? What do you think of the movie Chef? Like, you know, for those of you that have seen it, and is it one of your favorite movies of Jon Favreau's? Like, you know, everything about this movie and that I've had to say. Yeah, what did you think? And what did you think of my review? Leave comments and give this review video a like as always. So, with all that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of Jon Favreau's Chef. More review videos are on the way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward. And I'll see you guys in the next video/review. And there's one more movie to review, and that's another one of my all-time favorite movies. And to best describe it, well, let's just say it's the return of everybody's favorite cat in boots. Yeah, stay tuned for that later tonight. Take care, and peace out.